Hello and welcome to Nighthawk Racing, hashtag F01RST, Season 3, Round 7. And as you can see, this week we are at Brands Hatch Indy Circuit, a circuit that I hold close to my heart. But before he hits the track in his beautiful McLaren, we've got Midnight ISO as the co-coms for the introduction, who will then be replaced by Kirk. But how are you doing, Midnight? Are you looking forward to hitting the track?
Pleasure to be here. I am indeed. Brands Hatch, as you say, it's close to our hearts. Something we have a lot of experience of, at least on the Indy circuit, and looking forward to racing here in the red lobby and holding the seat warm until Kurt gets here.
Great to hear. So just giving you a little bit about the event information before I hand back to Midnight, who will explain a little bit more. But we've got a 10 race championship. As I've already said, we are round 7, so we're getting close to the end of the championship. So points are going to be valuable in these next coming races, so I'm sure a lot of drivers will try and aim for top points. But obviously last week we were in a kind of a mixed lobby of a purple lobby, but this week we are back to red and blue lobbies, so expect double the amount of videos this week. And overall we've got about 30 drivers registered, but we're always looking for more, so if you've got friends, family that like racing, then message us. But giving you a bit of a basic event format, we've got a sprint race which is 11 laps. We'll then have qualifying, and then after qualifying we then go straight into a feature race which is 47 laps around the Indy circuit. And as I've already said, round 7 this week, Brands Hatch. Next week we are at St. Croix B layout, so a difficult track for the drivers, but let's see how they get on around Brands Hatch first. But I'm going to hand back over to Midnight, who will explain a little bit more about a bit more specific event format.
Thank you very much, Sarah. Right, well, simply put, we're in the red lobby today, so that is less driver aids for the driver. So no traction control, anti-spin, only ABS, and that is about all the creature comforts all the drivers will have. But up first, we will have the ever challenging sprint race, which is done in reverse average points scored. So all the high scoring drivers start at the back, giving everyone a good chance of a good haul of points. So 11 laps there with 70% fuel allocation for this, and it'll be a rolling start, so absolutely challenging for all drivers out there. It will then be swiftly followed up by a 10-minute feature race qualifying session, and all the drivers will have 10 minutes to set their fastest time to form the grid for the ever important feature race, which is going to be a whole bunch of points and dicing action. But that race itself will be 47 laps and a grid start. We're not expecting any weather here today at Brands Hatch. However, there are some rules in effect. All drivers will have to start the race on the same tyre that they qualify on, set their fastest lap on, and also they will have to use 2 different tyre compounds just to keep the strategy going. And Sarah, I think that's going to be perfect to lead on to the points.
Yes, indeed, and obviously with the points, the sprint race, if you come home in first place, you get a nice 22 points. All the way down to 16th, you get a point, and the driver that gets the fastest lap, they get 1 extra point. Moving on to the feature race, the driver that claims that top spot of the podium gets a very nice 45 points this time, and all the way down to 16th, which they get 3 points. And again, the driver that secures the fastest lap, they get 2 bonus points, and as always there's some bonus points to achieve in qualifying for the top 3 positions. So like I say, points make prizes, and they're going to be definitely valuable in these next kind of closing stages of the championship. So before we head over to the grid to see who we've got on the grid tonight, we're just going to talk a little bit about Brands Hatch in general, give you a little bit of track facts. So over to you, Midnight. Have you got any track facts about the wonderful Brands Hatch circuit?
Yes, I have a few actually. I mean, the circuit itself dates back to the 1950s, so it's one of those quite essential British tracks, tight, twisty, and full of lots of challenges. The circuit itself is just over 2.4 miles, or just under 4 kilometres, and each and every corner we know from experience, as we go around it, and so does one of our drivers, Simon. We go around the Indy circuit quite a lot, and the undulation around there, the depth of the corners, the curves, each and every corner provides a challenge, and it is something to behold. You have to see it to believe it with some of these corners, but the history there as well. I always think of the 1976 British Grand Prix, where James Hunt goes on to win the race despite eventually being disqualified, but we're not going to focus on that. But he goes on and pleases the crowd in that extreme summer heat. But all we can say is it is a historic track, one that we absolutely adore, and I recommend anyone to go on an experience day, go on the lap of the track and just enjoy it. But here tonight for GT7, for the F1 RSC Championship, it's going to be a quite tough challenge. And again, each and every corner you can end up in a bit of a problem, which hopefully you won't see too much of, but it's definitely going to create opportunities for all drivers. And with the pit lane being so short here as well, it's going to create opportunity for a lot of strategic variety, I feel.
Yeah, I completely agree and couldn't have said it better myself, so thank you very much for that. But yeah, a track that obviously my home track, quite close to me, so I love always driving it. But the GP, like you say, the GP layout is going to be a bit of a challenge, especially for us, which we're always used to driving that Indy circuit. So I wonder if that will trip us up a little bit. But I don't know about you. Let's go and see, obviously yourself as well included. Let's go see the rest of the drivers on the grid.
Okay, and for the sprint grid, remember all these drivers are lined up in reverse average points scored order, but that doesn't mean the ones at the on pole aren't quick. And to that effect, we have Mclaren, who won 2 rounds at Daytona Oval a couple of weeks ago, so he is definitely in form at the moment, and in that 4 GT looking to impress. However, it's going to be a tricky one getting that big Ford American car around this track, but if anyone can do it, I think he has a shot to do it. And next up, in second place, we have Sophie in that Ferrari 458. She is very quick and will definitely be looking to take that top spot off Mclaren. However, she have to be careful around this track. The rear tyre wear of that 458 will be a challenge to measure out through the distance of the sprint. Okay, and in third we have Coach in that 1990s Jordan-inspired livery. Absolutely gorgeous. Sadly, Coach missed the last race, but he's back here at Brands Hatch and looking for a good result. Let's see what he can do with it. Up next, Max Velocity in the lead McLaren 650S. Now, we know from his name he's quick, all that velocity in the car, and we hope he can get a good result here. Just looking for a good, clean race and to show off what he can do. Up next we have Sophia, who was massively impressive at the Daytona road course in that Corvette. Getting that Corvette to do things that shouldn't necessarily be able to do. What can she do here today? And next, in sixth, we have Joker, a late joiner to our series, but nevertheless has been impressive ever since minute 1. What can he do here at Brands Hatch?
And next up we have the man himself, Midnight ISO, in the second McLaren 650S, and after having quite a good sprint race at Autopolis, I'm sure Midnight will be trying his best to try and copy that again here at Brands Hatch. He's used to driving the Indy circuit, so I'm excited to see how he gets on with the GP circuit, because we don't get often to drive that layout, so it'll be interesting to see how he gets on. And then in P8 we then have KD Vikai as well. KD Vikai had a pretty good scoring round at Autopolis, so again I'm sure he's going to look to try and copy that again, although very similar to Mclaren. Obviously the Corvette, a big American and guzzling car around this track with the undulations, it's going to be quite difficult for KD Vikai, but let's see what he can muster up. But in P9 we then have our very own admin in Pedro in that Mercedes AMG, and again he had a pretty good result. He got a win in the feature race last week at the Autopolis race. Probably going to be quite tough in the sprint race to try and get past everyone, because Brands Hatch is one of those tracks that is very difficult for overtaking. You've got to pick the right corners to do so or get them on the straight, but I'm sure Pedro will try his best to do so. And in P10 he had an announcement that he was joining us again, is McManley, and it's good to see him back on the grid in that Mercedes AMG. But as I said, he's not joined us for a few rounds due to kind of work and school, but it's good to see him back, and let's see what he can do from the back of the sprint race grid. I'm sure he'll be looking to try and get to that top spot if he can.
Okay, here we are for round 7 of season 3 red lobby in the Nighthawk Racing F1 RSC Championship. Ripon de Terran taking the field away across the line for the sprint race, followed by Sophie and Coach, Max Losty and Sophia in the top 5. So into the first corner, into paddock, Ripon de Terran taking the lead, followed by Sophie. Coach getting a little bit squirrely into the corner. Sophia being challenged by Joker. Oh, no, wait, that was an interesting one. Sophie having a glitch moment there and was briefly in all places at once. Ripon de Terran still in the lead. Sophie P2, Max Losty P3, Coach P4, and Sophia P5. All right so far, Sarah.
Yeah, very alright so far. It looked like Midnight went for a couple of moves there, but unfortunately does lose out to Mac and Pedro. It looks like it was quite close between Midnight and Joker going through obviously Paddock Hill Bend. Unfortunately, it did look like when they're coming through Graham Hill, it did look the two had a little bit of a come in together, and Midnight did let Joker back through, but it did let Pedro and Mac back through. As we see Sophia going slightly out wide in the distance there, which does let Coach go a little bit in front of her. But yeah, all in all, doing everyone doing alright so far. Oh, a little bit of a glitch moment from Sophie again there, which I think did shock Ripon de Terran a little bit there, and did unfortunately mean that he went out into the grass. Yeah,
that would have shocked me off the track as well. But we do see a lot of drivers on different tyres. We've got Sophie up into P1 on the mediums, Max on the softs, Ripon de Terran on the mediums, Coach on the mediums. Looks like most drivers are here will be on the mediums.
Yeah, it does look like that indeed, and obviously the softs, 11 laps around Brands Hatch, it would be quite a stretch, so I'm not surprised that a lot of people have gone for the medium, see how kind of long they last for, and obviously that could put them in a good position for the feature race, as we see Midnight diving up on the inside with Pedro there, round the going into Graham Hill Bend, potentially going for a move on McManley there, although he does back out of it at the last minute, which does let Pedro back through on Midnight. So quite close to each other, these obviously Mac, Midnight and Pedro. As Pedro made a little bit of a mistake there, which did let Midnight back through on the inside. But yeah, Brands Hatch, a difficult kind of course to get right in the first couple of laps, but all drivers seem to do a pretty good job so far.
Yeah, and in this sprint we always see a lot of the drivers coming close together as they're trying to vie for position. But this middle pack at the moment, which is led by Coach, has got Sophia right behind him, is so close together. We do see a little tap, Coach running a little bit wide, retaining the position down into, I think that is Sheen, so I've lost my memory of the track briefly, but so much going on the track. And then now is Coach, Sophia, Joker and Mac all together coming through the final corner. And Sophia,
yeah, and obviously you can't forget wide, Midnight and Pedro just behind them as well. As you see McManley going on the inside of Joker here, trying to get the move done before Paddock Hill, and he does. Mac breaks just that a little bit later and tucks in just behind Sophia. But yeah, it just goes to show, the one who breaks latest gets in front, and especially around Paddock Hill, you wanna make that corner. So a very brave move from McManley there.
Yeah, and it's also worth saying that Mac, it's his first race back with us since earlier in the season. It's his first race on these new physics. Don't seem to be slowing him down then.
It doesn't, indeed, and obviously we just saw a little bit of an off for Ripon de Terran there, which unfortunately does bring him into 10th position. It did look like a little bit of a mistake coming out of Graham Hill Bend, and maybe a potential clip of the grass, which did send him spinning the wrong way. But good to see him getting going again. And obviously we've still got plenty of laps left for him to get back up into the pack.
Beautiful pass there from Sophia round the outside of Coach into Hawthorns up to P3, Sarah.
Yeah, a very brave move again here. Some of these fast kind of sweeping corners, it's very hard to overtake. So to be able to get that overtake done and dusted and relatively cleanly, good going. Oh no, we've seen Mac. Mac is spun, and that drops him into P8. Unfortunate for Mac on his first race back, and it looks like Ripon de Terran also has to take some evading action around Mac, and nearly saw the 4GT kind of skidding around that final corner. But yeah, unfortunate for Mac.
Not the greatest of rejoins from Mac there, but no harm, no foul, all in all. And yeah, that Mac, maybe that lack of experience on this physics catching him out now.
Yeah, unfortunately, obviously we all know how the physics have definitely changed. Some drivers kind of driving style and having to adapt to it quickly. Unfortunately for Mac, he's not had the amount of time that some of the other drivers have to adapt, so I'm sure he'll be trying to get used to it in these 11 laps of the sprint race in order for the feature race to hopefully go a little bit better for him. But we've still got 7 laps to go, so he's definitely got a chance to get back up into the pack. And keeping an eye on this battle here between Joker and Midnight, it does look like these two are quite close to each other, and Midnight kind of biding his time to make a move done. As it looks
It's worth saying that we had Katie, the guy who was in the mix of this earlier on as well, did suffer a spin early on the first lap and has caught this pack up.
It just goes to show it's definitely possible, to catch the pack up. And obviously, going back to Autopolis the last couple of weeks, Katie the Kai has been blisteringly fast, so I wouldn't expect, anything less from him to catch the pack. And, to keep them honest, keep them fighting. Obviously, Pedro will be looking in front to try and catch Midnight, but also looking behind or to the side of him now, as Katie the Kai looks like he's going to try and make a move on Paddock Hill and gets the job done by braking just that little bit later.
Yeah, Pedro got a much better exit to that corner, so he might be coming back through Druids. He's on the inside, but Kai carrying a little bit more speed, just runs a little bit wider, then gets squirrely, and he's in the barrier.
Yeah, unfortunate. I've had a few of those moments, when instructing, when you come around there and you put that little bit too much power coming out of Druids. That does happen quite a bit. The car does get a little bit kind of topsy-turvy, but good to see that, didn't lose him too much time, but I'm sure he'll keep that in mind for the next lap, not to put too much power down coming out of that corner, as it's very easily done to spin there. But going to the front of the pack, we've got Sophie, who, ever since getting into the front, she's had a commanding lead. She's obviously got max velocity, not too far behind, but not kind of an imminent threat. So a really good job from Sophie so far in that 458, and hopefully, she can maintain that lead for an extra 6 laps.
Yeah, our Welsh lass out in front, absolutely blisteringly fast and doing great, but unfortunately so fast that he's glitching the game a little bit. Unfortunately, what you're seeing is the reason why she hasn't managed to make it around all of our races. A bit of a unluckiness with the internet connection, but hopefully it can hold and she can stay out front with Max Velocity chasing her down. Max, on those soft tyres, has to attack soon because his tyres will start to go off compared to Sophie's medium tyres, and he's also going to have to worry about Sophia behind on those medium tyres in that Corvette. So any driver that is running the softs is going to struggle come the end of this race.
Oh, 100%. It might just be able to cover the distance, but it's going to be a tough ask, especially with that McLaren. So, like I say, he's going to try and have to get the move done and dusted as soon as he can. But I'm sure, Sophie in that 458 will try and hold him back for as long as she can. But obviously, got, like you say, Sophia not too far behind in P3. And we all know that Corvette of Sophia is quite a good, pairing. She can drive remarkably fast. So I'm eager to see if she's able to catch the top 2 before the end of the sprint race. I've got to say, I've got to give it up to Coach, just in front of this pack of Joker, Midnight, Pedro and Katie the Kai. He's got a little bit of a gap to them, but, he's doing his own race at the moment. He's not kind of threatening that this group is behind him just yet. He's just simply enjoying it and, setting some consistent lap times down. So, good job from Coach so far.
Yeah, I quite agree. And just going back a point or two, Sophia out the front, out in P3, looking to chase down the front. She was dominant at Daytona Road Course a few races ago, so she's going to be definitely looking forwards. But recap what you just said about Coach. Yeah, he is. He's not setting the world alight with his lap times, but he is making sure he is holding that P4 and not stressing the car too much. So he's thinking long game. He's not always about the absolute raw speed, but he definitely makes it work over a race distance, which is exactly the way you need to treat this kind of format.
Oh, 100%, you've got to keep it consistent. You've got to try and keep, the mistakes to a minimal, and I think that's what Coach kind of excels at, the consistent lap times. And like you say, you don't have to be super fast to have really good results. If you're consistent and you manage to just hold your position and kind of hold your lap times and make them so they're not kind of varying up and down, it puts you in a good position and good point scoring positions. But as we say, We've still got this little bit of a battle from P5 down to P7, and KD the Kai is managing to make his way up as Pedro takes a lot of the grass there, manages to keep that Mercedes pointing forwards. But it looks like this little pack is creeping up ever so slowly on Coach. But yeah, a battle across the field so far. It's going to make the feature race just that little bit harder, our job a little bit harder to try and keep the, show all of the action. As we see, Joker dip a little bit of a tyre into that gravel. Like not getting the whole car in the gravel, which I'm sure he'll be keen to avoid.
Oh, definitely likes going sideways at some corners though.
Yeah.
That 458 being a bit loose.
Yeah, maybe he wants to take a different perspective of Brand Touch, see it slightly sideways. But as we see Midnight braking that a little bit later, Joker going for that a little bit of a wider line and trying to catch up to Coach. But it looks like Joker is making some steady, getting his way up, trying to get behind Coach as fast as he can. Like I say, the tyres are starting to kind of degrade a little bit, so driver's going to find it that little bit harder to make those moves and to make them stick.
Especially anyone on the soft, Sarah.
Oh, 100%. As we see, obviously, max velocity. Those tyres, they're about half worn. It's going to be tough. And I can see, the ever approaching Sophia just behind. We're on lap 8, going on to lap 9, so it's going to be tough for Max to catch Sophie, and obviously Sophia to catch Max. So it's going to be tough. But
fortunately, spin there, sir.
Oh no! Unfortunately, Midnight spins coming out of the final corner, which is easily done if you accidentally dip a little bit of a wheel into the grass or the gravel. Unfortunately, that final corner isn't very forgiving, so very unfortunate for Midnight. That does put him out of contention of that little battle that was going from P5 to about P7-8. But obviously, I'm sure he'll use that experience in the feature race to try and not do the same sort of mistake. But obviously, 3 laps to go. Sorry. He'll try his best to try and get back up to the pack, but it's going to be a tough ask. Very unfortunate for Midnight there.
Well, it does happen.
Sophia with a half a second penalty.
Yeah, and those are critical around here, particularly in the sprint race. But as I was about to say, it's those soft tyre runners are now starting to really suffer, and we'll just see Max Velocity with the same problem, also on those soft tyres. So it is, definitely one of those moments. But that does release Pedro up to P6, who's now on the back of Joker. And it looks like Kai in the background he's not having a great run here in this sprint race. He seems to be running wide a couple of spaces. He's picked up damage a couple of times. Fortunately, in the sprint, it doesn't stick around, so he can get back on it. However, it does look like the pack in front of him are starting to gap even Kai a little bit at this point.
Yeah, we see Sophia dip about half the car into the gravel, but she's approaching max velocity here. But yeah, going back to the likes of KD the Kai. Unfortunately, we see Midnight coming into the pits. Is that a possible retirement? Is that a change of tyres? We shall see. But looks like it's a change of tyres. Maybe going for the fastest lap. But yes, going back to KD the Kai. It's that thing when you make a kind of a slight mistake in the sprint race, because the duration of it is so short. It's very hard to kind of get back into the battles where you once were, a few laps ago. But you're got to give it to KD the Kai. He's trying his best, and he's doing as best as he can to try and get back onto the back of Pedro and fight for a little bit higher positions. But obviously, with only 2 laps to go, I don't think it's going to be possible. But it's all experience, and at the end of the day, I always say that the drivers, if they've not been able to practice, or they've not practiced enough as what they wanted to, the sprint race is a good kind of starting position as to kind of see how everyone does, drive the track, try and learn it as quick as you can to go into the feature race. And obviously sometimes the sprint race kind of throws up surprises. You may change, as we see Sophia going on the outside of Paddock Hill Bend, Max Velocity still on the inside and holding that position. Yeah, going back to the sprint race, all in all, it's I call it the sprint race is kind of like the driver's last minute practice if they've not been able to.
Yeah, and there's a couple of battles on track. Battle for P2, Max versus Sophia, and we have battle for P4, which is between Coach Joker and Pedro, but Sophia looking like she's going to be trying to make the move around the outside. Has she just got that raw power over Max at the moment? She might have the power around into Hawthorns at the moment. It looks like Sophie at the front has just gone in that 458. But can Sophia into Hawthorns? Max will fight her on this one. They don't touch, but Sophia takes P2, and on the final lap, that's going to be hard for Max to get back.
Yeah, unfortunately, I think, Max velocity on the soft tyres, he won't have enough tyre wear to kind of fight back for that position and try and, defend his P2. But again, a very brave move from Sophia there. That corner that Hawthorns is not an easy one to tackle when you've got a driver, to the side of you or right behind you.
Yeah, Joker on the back of Coach, and just going to go forward to the front. Sophie takes the win. Sophia will take P2, Max P3, and P4 is still up in the air a little bit at the moment. Coach and Joker, getting Joker nipped down the inside on the main straight.
I think he's a bit too far back.
Coach has blocked it. Joker takes P5, Pedro P6, Kai P7. Well, that was an interesting race to the top 7.
It definitely was very, very close between the top 7, and unfortunately, obviously, Midnight having a little bit of a spin did bring him a little bit back towards the back end of the grid. But P8, still point scoring positions, and I'm sure Midnight will use that experience in the feature race. But he comes home in P8, and in P9, just coming across the final corner, we have Ripin Terran, who will round out the grid for our sprint race in P9.
And I can tell you, I can tell you that wasn't the fastest lap, despite it being an attempt.
It's like I say, the sprint race is kind of, that's where a lot of drivers do make their mistakes. It's because it's so fast paced and it's obviously such a short distance. Drivers are going for it. They're trying to kind of stake their claim. So easily done, easily done to make some mistakes, but I'm sure some of the drivers will look to iron out their mistakes in the feature race. But obviously, before we get into the sprint race, we'll have a little look at qualifying and see where everyone starts on the starting grid. But I'm excited to see how the qualifying session went, and obviously round one of my favourite tracks in the world. I'm excited to see the feature race and the action it brings us.
Yeah, quite right. Let's go and check out those results, but I'm just going to say very quickly, that sprint race I think was quite a lot of fun. We had not a shock win from Sophie, because she is extremely quick, but lots of good racing, despite it being a very, very tight and twisty traditional British track. It definitely creates a lot of opportunity for mistakes and overtaking, so that was fun, and I think that leads into the feature race, which is going to be quite interesting.
Well, it looks like all the drivers had quite an exciting qualifying sessions, and as they all line up on the grid, just going to share the results with you, as you can see on the screen as well. But in pole position for round number 7 around Brands Hatch, we have Katie the Kai in that Corvette, setting a 1:22.526. So what a flying lap from Katie the Kai that was. And just behind him in P2, we have the return of Mclaren, and qualifying only 4/10 behind Katie the Kai. So interesting from the two there, who also qualified on the softs in P3. We then have Sophia in the second Corvette, and she set a 1:23.7, so quite close to the top 3. It's going to be a close battle between those 3. In P4, we have Pedro in the Mercedes AMG. In P5, we then have another Mercedes AMG, so good to see that the Mercedes qualifying so high. But like I say, Coach in P5. In P6, we then have Max Velocity in the first Mclaren 650S, so another good qualifying from Max Velocity, using that velocity in the car, as Midnight said. But in P7, we have Joker in the Ferrari 458. And just behind him, we have Midnight ISO in that second McLaren 650S. In P9, we then have Ripin Terran. We're in that 4GT, setting a 1:25.3, which means the whole grid was only separated by less than 3 seconds. So very close between all of the drivers in the qualifying session. And obviously, an interesting note to add, there's only Katie the Kai McManley qualified on the softs, with the rest of the grid qualifying on the mediums. So it's going to be an interesting start to the feature race, and I don't know about you, but let's go get into it and see how all the drivers got on.
Okay, here we are for the feature race. Sarah, take it away.
Yeah, we have quite a good qualifying session, it looks like. Mac in P2, I'm sure. Ooh, bit of a collision. I'm not sure what happened there, but Katie the car getting very sideways, which has unfortunately held a few of the drivers back and probably caught them very much by surprise. But currently we've got Sophia in P1 with Mac challenging already into Druids, though Tuck's just behind Sophia, but I'm sure Mac, after the sprint race, unfortunately he did retire, so I'm sure he'll be looking for a good feature race result on his return. But we've also got 3 drivers battling it out. Unfortunately, Pedro going a little bit wide. Unfortunately, with Max, that does let the likes of Midnight Joker and Katie the Kai back through. Also Sophie as well, who unfortunately didn't set a qualifying time, but it's good to see her on the grid. And obviously after that sprint race win, I'm sure she should be hoping for a good result. But yeah, across the grid, like I said, unfortunately a few drivers getting caught up in that sprint race start. This grid start, sorry. But it does look like Mac's going to challenge Sophia, although he does think better of it. Peeps his head out just a little bit, but obviously this blind corner here, you never want to kind of risk it too much as the grass is there to collect you. But yeah, a good kind of opening lap from the drivers so far. Anything that's caught your eye, Midnight?
Yeah, unfortunately Kai got off sideways. I'm not quite sure what happened with his start, but it did lead to a bit of an effect down the grid, as we see Coach with a lot of damage front and back. So he's obviously, I think he's gone into the back of Kai and then ripping to tearing in the back of him as he's carrying damage through. But that has worked out nicely for Sophia and McManley, who have just taken off out front. Pedro was very, very unlucky into the Graham Hill bend as Max got up past him and it's dropped him down several positions. I think I did just see Sophie. I think we have lost Sophie now through disconnect, so that's unfortunate. Max off!
Yeah, a bit of a spin from McManley there. It looked like he went side by side with Sophia, and unfortunately just came out a little bit worse from that collision. He did get on the grass out of Graham Hill Bend, and it did spin him round facing the wrong way. So unfortunate for Mac, as he was looking quite strong, but hopefully, only 2 laps in. Still got 45 laps to go, and I'm sure he'll be challenging and trying his best to get back onto that podium position. But yeah, very unfortunate for Mac there.
What is absolutely incredible is Kai, despite that chaotic start, is back up to P2.
Yeah,
and he's carrying a little bit of damage, but he's alright.
It means currently we've got a Corvette front row lockout. But yeah, unfortunately it doesn't look like it affected him too much, that kind of awkward start. Looks like a little bit of damage, but hopefully, well, it seems not to be slowing him down too much. So obviously it doesn't look like he needs to come in pit and repair that. But yeah, obviously we've got max velocity in P3 as well, and we've got front row seats to see this Corvette battle.
These two always seem to be on the same bit of track, don't they?
Yes, they always do, and it means that they can hopefully help each other out. They know their struggles and they know their kind of strong points of those Corvettes. So we might see the 2 Corvette drivers, although challenging them, both of them, they'll probably be trying to help each other out as well. But it looks like Sophie nearly went a little bit wide there, but manages to build a little bit of a gap to herself and Katie the Kai.
Well, worth saying after Autopolis, that Joker had a cracking race down there, particularly with an interesting strategy. So I'm going to be keeping an eye on him again. But he is being closely followed by Pedro, who did exactly the same through the sprint. So these two very close together again on both pace and what it seems like possibly even the same strategy. So we'll see how that unfolds.
Yeah, I agree with you, especially after Autopolis. I'm excited to see what Joker has in his bag. But it looked like Katie the Kai had quite a snap of oversteer in that last couple of corners. So although it didn't slow him down too much, Sophia braking, but Katie the Kai just tucking in behind Sophia for now. But it's going to be a close battle between these 2 Corvettes. And I think it's going to, in the next few corners, it's going to be who's going to brake later and who's going to try and be brave. Although we do see Katie the Kai over the grass, but Sophia does go a little bit wide. Katie the Kai following his line. Looks like Katie the Kai might give it a go. He brakes later into the GP section of the track and gets the move done. Although he doesn't. He spins. Maybe too much power coming out into the GP section. So unfortunately, that's going to lose Katie the Kai quite a few positions. Very unfortunate there.
Yeah, and somewhere on track, Manley has gotten past Pedro as well. So Mac making use of those soft tyres, trying to come back through the grid. It looks like it's all changed, particularly with Kai heading back down towards P7. The one person I'm keeping an eye on at the moment is Max Velocity, who's on those medium tyres and not all that far behind Sophia, but we have seen when Sophia's under pressure, the pace will drop off a little bit, particularly when we got Katie the Kai behind her. But now she hasn't got that. Can she get going?
I think it's something, you know, Sophia knows that she's very good at defending. So obviously when she knew that she had Katie the Kai literally right behind her, we saw kind of more of a defensive kind of drive from Sophia there. So as soon as she was released, unfortunately Katie the Kai, after that slight mistake, we'll probably see Sophia setting some really fast lap times here, and she knows she's not under kind of imminent threat from Max Velocity, although the grid isn't too far behind Sophia, so she's not gonna have a lot of time to breathe, but I'm sure just enough to have a little bit of a kind of relax and get going again. One
problem that our lead driver is going to have is that Corvette will chew through the tyres a little bit more than the McLaren's behind, and as you say, that pack is still quite close. I mean, there's a big gaggle of cars there all the way down to P6. Katie the Kai not far back, but still on soft tyres, and even P8. So anyone who pits at that top bunch now comes up behind everyone else. Coach at the back has had to pit for that damage. It was too extensive, so he has unfortunately fallen right back. Can he make it back through for some more significant points? But it's largely going to be a bit of a test session here for him today.
I'm sure he'll try his best, but yeah, very unfortunate there. You never want to kind of get caught up in those kind of grid start kind of mishaps or turn one mishaps, but he tried his best to try and make it work over the first 5 laps, but unfortunately, like you say, the damage is just a bit too much. As we see on board with Max Velocity, just behind we have Midnight and Joker going potentially side by side through Paddock Hill, and Joker braking a lot later there and manages to go on the inside, although he does drift out wide, which unfortunately does mean Midnight drifts out a little bit wide, manages to keep ahead. And also McManley going onto that outside line. Will that see Pedro make the move on McManley?
That's the trick with this track. Every move that you go for, if you put yourself onto a different bit of track, is either a bit of grass or a curb there, and you open yourself up for a pass from behind. So Max got to be careful where he is. His tyres are going to be getting older, or at least more worn than the drivers around him. He's going to have to make use of those soft tyres, but not push too hard, as we've seen already, as he's already had a spin, and so has Kai. So the soft tyres providing lots of grip, providing they're pointed in the right direction.
Yeah, I think that's the key, obviously, trying to make sure that those tyres are facing the right direction. But this gaggle of cars, as you called it, they're not too far apart from each other, so it's making our job a lot harder to keep on track with these guys. Oh, as we see Mac dip a wheel onto the grass, which unfortunately does mean that he does hold back Pedro just that little bit. I'm sure Pedro will be eager to try and make a move, although McManley, very defensive drive at the moment, going side by side through the final corner. Mac brakes slightly later than Pedro, and Pedro making sure that he's given enough room. As we see Katie the Kai back with the pack. Obviously good to see him back in. He's just behind Pedro, and it just goes to show, that this gaggle of cars battling has brought Kai back into the battle.
Yeah, everyone who's fighting does slow each other, themselves and the person in front or even behind up. So really, if anything, it's letting Sophia get away a little bit, but she's only a corner ahead of Max and the rest of the pack.
And obviously we all know that pit stops will be coming up shortly, so it's going to be interesting to see kind of the strategies that are at play today. Obviously the likes of Katie the Kai and potentially having that earlier spin may have changed his strategy slightly, but obviously Sophia, knowing that you've got this group of cars only a few corners away, it's going to affect her strategy as well, as if she tries to undercut them, or I'm not quite sure what her strategy is, so I'm interested to see how or what strategy she goes for. But Cage of the Kai lost a little bit of time there behind Pedro, unfortunately. Clipped a little bit of grass.
Well, one thing I can tell you here, the pit lane around Brands Hatch is a very quick pit stop, so will any of our drivers spotted that, or are we going to see more like Autopolis, where we had a complete range of pit stops from 1, 2, 3, even 4 in some cases?
Yeah, will we see some drivers go for that aggressive strategy? Will we see kind of... I'm not sure if a one-stop would be possible around here. It's going to be a tall ask, you know, if any drivers do decide to go for a one-stop, but I'm not sure if that's possible. As we see Cage of the Kai coming into the pits, obviously looks to repair that damage, but also is going on to a soft set of tyres. So hopefully, I'm thinking, you know, in his mind, he's probably thinking, I need to catch this group and I need to try and make some moves stick. But interesting to call, going on the soft set of tyres, going aggressive to start off with. Yeah, interestingly enough, obviously not picking up fuel, that will affect kind of his next pit stop. He's going to have to spend that little bit longer into the pit stops. But yeah, looking to try and make some moves done before his next round of pit stops. But yeah, max velocity still holding, you know, back the likes of Midnight, Joker and McManley, but doing a pretty good job so far. And yeah, it seems that this little group here, obviously Joker is quite close behind Midnight. But Midnight on the defensive. Yeah, I'm sure he's not going to make it easy for Joker to try and get around him. Oh, saying that, Midnight comes into the pits. Yeah. It's always you. I've only just clocked on, and you always keep me guessing. I never know what strategy you're going for, but at the end of the day, it keeps it fun. And Midnight goes onto the medium set of tyres? No, onto a soft set of tyres, sorry. So again, going aggressive like Cage of the Kai, and obviously looks to try and make as many moves done as before his next round of pit stops. So yeah, obviously Cage of the Kai, Midnight going aggressive to start off with, and is the first 2 people to pit, and I'm sure the drivers around them will see that and kind of tweak that they're going for that aggressive strategy. So I wonder if McManley, also on the softs, coming in the next few laps and try and copy what they're doing.
Well, that is the question, Sarah. I mean, what do you do? Do you go for an aggressive strategy, make use of the short pit lane here, and go for outright blinding speed, or do you play the long game? It is one of those questions that this series is really providing us with that question. We never know from race to race what each driver is thinking, what they're going to try, particularly with the different type of cars and the tyres on offer. And at the end of the day, it's a bit of a luck.
Oh, it's always that question: do you be, you know, reactive or proactive? Obviously, it's hard to call. I think for the drivers like Midnight and Cage of the Kai, they're in that sort of position where they can, you know, go on the softs and try and spice things up. The drivers like kind of joke downwards. Because they're currently in a battle. Do you be, you know, proactive, think about maybe potentially some undercuts, or potentially, you know, think how my strategy could play out? It's hard to call because I think they're so close to each other at the minute that it's obviously McManley being on the softer tyres, he's going to have to pit a lot sooner than, say, the likes of Pedro. So I think Pedro could probably be proactive, where I think McManley is probably going to have to try and think reactively, being on the softer set of tyres, try and think a little bit more aggressively.
Well, that is the trick. Like you said, do you go for the undercut and go for the premium soft tyre speed? The problem is you're going to end up in traffic around here, which is a big problem. You can see Kai suffering with that at the moment, particularly with Rip into Terran, who's carrying a bit.
I'm sorry to interrupt you there, but I don't know if it's a potential mistake from Sophia or Max Velocity, just, you know, found that rocket ship in the Mclaren, but the two have got very close to each other in the last few corners.
As we both know, this is a very tricky track, so it's just a matter of just trying to survive it. And yeah, I mean, so Max definitely closing in. That's going to make for a good race.
Yeah, obviously we knew that Sophia was kind of a couple of corners ahead of the pack, so I'm not sure, like I say, if there was a potential mistake, or kind of, like I say, I don't know if Max Velocity used a bit of a nitrous boost there or not. But yeah, unfortunately, you know, Sophia will have to try and defend as much as she can from Max Velocity here in this stint. as we see McManley and Pedro also going for a move around Druids. Oh, it just looks like McManley did nearly catch Pedro out. Pedro having to brake a lot sooner than what he probably expected to. But it's good to see these two Merc drivers battling it out.
100% battle of the Mercedes at the moment, if you ask me. But it definitely looks like Max Tars are just giving up. I mean, remember, this is his first race on the new physics, so he's going to be struggling with this one. It's going to be very much him going to... I suspect he's going to try and go down to the canvas and drive like normal, but as you can see, that is... Oh! Ow!
Yeah.
Yeah, that's not worked very well for him. I mean, as you can see, he's just got no grip in that front tyre. But as you can see, he has lit Pedro back through again. I think that's good sporting behaviour.
Yeah.
And, well, unfortunate for Mac.
I saw the kind of the twitch in the wheels there. You could definitely tell when that front left tyre just completely gave up. It gave Mac a little bit of a wiggle as he drifts around that corner, nearly catching Midnight. But yeah, unfortunate. I think Pedro did wait up for Mac. I think he knew that there was a little bit of a collision between the two. But as we see McManley coming into the pits, I think that's a good decision. You know, especially these new physics, driving on no tyres is tough and very... You're gonna have to be on it like 100%.
Oh, completely. It is nothing compared to like the previous physics that we were used to, where you could just push on dead hard tyres for the longest stint of the race. Mac chose to go in the pits completely rightly. I mean, it's going to be an absolute shock to him, given the fact we know he's not had that much practice, and there he is leaving the pits, taking out a bollard. It happens, I suppose. And but yeah, he's going to be much happier now on fresh medium tyres. But you got to push it before you ruin those tyres.
That sounds like a quote that I've heard before. Yeah, yeah, I like that. But yeah, unfortunately, we see Joker with a half-second penalty here, which will affect, you know, his charge on max velocity. Yeah, going back to McManley, obviously, I think he was kind of caught up in that battle with Pedro, so he couldn't kind of do too much. But maybe in hindsight, you know, seeing that the other two drivers around him who also on the softs going back into the pits, you know, pitting again, he maybe should have probably reacted just that little bit sooner. But, you know, hindsight is a wonderful thing, as they say. If you're caught up in those battles, you want to get in front of your competitor and stay there. But unfortunately, tyre wear, fuel wear does have other ideas about that.
Missing audio from Midnight. Just assume he's saying something incredibly insightful and adoring the action and drivers on track. Please check out the Nighthawk Racing back catalog on various social media with TikTok, Instagram, and YouTube.
Yeah, and obviously that is very difficult to do around a track like this, Brands Hatch, where you've not necessarily got those kind of barriers to point you in the right direction. It's a battle of trying to stay off the grass and pointing in the right direction, as we see a little bit of a battle between Midnight and Pedro. Obviously we've seen Pedro, Midnight on the soft tyres, Pedro on the medium tyres, and the fresh set of Midnight's soft tyres may see him make a move just before or just after Paddock Hill Bend. But yeah, quite like I said earlier, quite aggressive strategy from Midnight, but seems to be you know, the ball is in his court at the minute between himself and Pedro. Obviously he's going to have to be a little bit careful and look after those soft tyres. But Pedro, you know, trying to hold Midnight back, I'm sure. Or, you know, potentially maybe their teamwork from Daytona playing a little bit of dividends here. As we see, Pedro going a little bit wide, which does let that move of Midnight kind of relatively easy for Midnight, not having to kind of fight for it too much, as we see, although Katie Dekai on the back of these two now. So I think Pedro might be under threat from Katie Dekai, but already we can see the tyre wear on that Corvette. Similar to Autopolis, it's already half one, and he hasn't really, you know, he's only pitted a few laps ago, so it's going to be tough for Katie Dekai here.
Yeah, his tyres are already multiple laps old and reaching the same sort of tyre wear as Pedro, who's been on them since the start. It shows the stark contrast with the new physics, how the tyre wear is just shredding those soft tyres. Not to mention, he's obviously driving a Corvette, which is not known for its, it's not praised for its tyre wear characteristics, shall we say. All I can say is with that short pit stop that we've got here, there are gaps that drivers are trying to exploit, drop back into, and as you can see, those that have pitted already are catching the leaders, and they haven't pitted, and it's still only lap 15, so it's a roll of the dice by going for this, but you are giving up track position, what we're seeing with Kai and whatnot.
Yeah, it's that thing that I think some of the drivers who have pitted early, they've seen a kind of a gap and they've gone for it. They knew it wasn't going to lose them too much time, so there was no kind of harm in pitting just that little bit earlier than some of the other drivers around them. But it's that thing. It's because these drivers towards the front, they're always kind of engaging in battles. That's when you're not really thinking about tyre wear in this stint. You're thinking about kind of solidifying your positions and fighting for position. So obviously tyre wear will come into play for some of the drivers. They'll start thinking about it, especially the drivers on the medium set of tyres. But obviously the guys on the softs, they're just simply fighting for positions at this point.
Yeah, I mean, it's the racer within all of us that are, taking part in the series and or just enjoying it. We want to go for the pass and enjoy the race.
Yeah.
But it's what do you do?
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. Although I think Pedro, obviously, he knows that his strategy is completely different to Katie the Kai. So I don't think Pedro, worrying too much at this moment. He's on a different strategy, which means that he's going to stay out a lot longer. So it's choosing your battles at the end of the day. And I think Pedro, choosing the softs of Midnight and Katie the Kai, they're going to burn through quickly. They're going to have to pit again. So Pedro thinking slightly different and letting them through.
Yeah, it definitely looks like Pedro is playing the long game, which will probably work out for him in...
Oh! Sophia! Mistake from Sophia. I think that we do see her reset at the 6th place. Unfortunate for her. She looked like she kind of drifted off in that kind of join to the GP end of the circuit. It looked like she kind of made a little bit of a mistake there, which did throw her across the grass. But very unfortunate. But it does promote max velocity into P1.
Good bit of luck there from Max and obviously Sophia having a bit of off. Maybe that tyre wear catching her out in the first sector of the track. But what can we say? It's one of those tricky little things. All drivers are going to be suffering with tyre wear.
Yeah, I was just...
There's a Joker. Yeah, he was a bit sideways and pit time maybe for him.
I'd say that caught my attention as well. He completely facing the wrong way around that corner, but manages to get it stuck. And Joker and Katie the Kai in, which does obviously set Midnight and max velocity free. But yeah, quite an interesting few kind of laps there. Unfortunate for obviously Sophia, which she's currently in P4. But easily done around this track. Like I said, it's very easily, these corners do they can be quite difficult to kind of carry speed around. And if you carry that a little bit too much, they're not very forgiving. And I think obviously Sophia finding that out in the last lap. But there's many more laps to go. I'm sure hopefully she'll get back up onto the podium, or if not, fighting for the podium position. But yeah. Midnight into P2. Looks like he's chasing down the other McLaren of max velocity. Obviously, like you said, the aging kind of tyres of max velocity compared to Midnight's kind of soft set of tyres, which obviously do look quite worn, but that is to be expected around here. Especially brand touch the McLaren, the rubber is going to burn through quite quickly. But saying that, max velocity about half worn on those, or just below. On those medium sets, so they're kind of the same at the minute between the top two. So it's going to be interesting. Obviously, Pedro being the silent assassin here, watching these two McLarens go round in front of him, he'll be eager to try and try and not force them into a mistake. But if they do make any mistakes, he'll be right on them. But yeah, it looks like the top three got themselves in a little bit of a a little bit of a battle of their own as we see Sophia coming around Paddock Hill Bend. Not too far away, but the top three are not worrying too much about P4 at the minute.
Finally,
just looking across.
Yeah, finally ripping to Terran in. We'll be fixing that damage. He's been carrying that since lap 1, since that grid start, Sarah. So he's going to be happy to have finally some front end grip and a little bit more pace down the straights.
Yeah, and I think we've all had that experience. It's like, do I carry on with the damage? Do I pit? I'm not quite sure. But to go to 17 laps with damage, which can affect how fast the car's going. It's good, and I'm sure he'll be very happy now that he's damage free and is able to kind of show his true potential here. But yes, as we see across the grid, we're just having a quick look at McManley as well. Obviously, after the first couple of laps, he's managed to get himself up into P6 and kind of settling into his first feature race back. It's good to see. And obviously, Joker down to P7 after that pit stop. But on obviously the fresher tyres, he'll be looking to try and catch the grid. As we see Midnight into the pits. What tyres will he go on to? It's going to keep me guessing again. I'm not going to guess. I'm going to wait until he comes out to have a look, because I never know what strategy Midnight's on. Whether it's aggressive or it's unique, I'm not quite sure yet. But hopefully he will have a good race. It looks like he's taken a little bit more fuel compared to last time. And trying to spend as little time as possible as he goes on to drumroll softs again.
You sound almost disappointed.
I had a feeling. Knowing you, I know you're probably going to go aggressive, so I had a feeling you're going to go on the softs. But I thought maybe the mediums, maybe go on that, going a little bit more into the race. But yeah, no, I'm not disappointed. But obviously going to the aggressive kind of strategy is Midnight again, very similar to Autopolis. I'm sure we'll be trying to get back on the back of McManley soon. But looking ahead, we've got Sophia back up into P3, and she can just about see the top two just in front of her, Pedro and Max Velocity. And I'm sure she'll be eager to try for her pit stop to get up onto the back of them. But I've got to say, Max Velocity, although obviously the first couple of corners and the first lap were a little bit kind of treacherous between himself and Pedro, he's held the lead for quite a few laps now, and looks to be quite in a strong position at the moment.
Yeah, you deal the cards that are dealt to you, and he's definitely done very well like that first lap or two incident, but he's had a clean race ever since. Apart from a minor scrape into Graham Hill, ironically with the gentleman who's chasing him down now. But we can definitely see that Pedro's tyre wear does look significantly, well, not going to say significantly, it's higher than Max, but you'd expect that in the AMG. But Pedro hanging on to the back of Max very, very well, but both drivers look like they should be taking their first pit stop imminently, but they are being closely shadowed by Sophia as well in that Corvette. So both the drivers taking the cards which they were dealt and then doing very well by them so far. But they have to keep a big eye out for that Katie Lakai, who is running P4 at the moment. And somewhere Mac has ended backwards. He's dropped a place. I think he had a spin in the first sector, Sarah.
Yeah, like we were just joined obviously by when Midnight came out of the pits. He just came out just behind McManley, so like you say, potentially a slight mistake there, although no damage, which is good for Mac. He can continue fighting to fight another day. As we see Pedro coming into the pits talking about fighting, he thinks pit now, try and undercut maybe potentially Max Velocity. So obviously that does let Max Velocity free, and it does look like Sophia, she's catching, and she's catching quickly. Max Velocity, she wants to take that first position back. Yeah,
you have to say she's absolutely rapid around every single course, no matter whatever car that she's in. So pushing hard and then getting there at the moment. The ironic thing is that Mackay, having already pitted a pair of times, is catching these two and is almost in the same place of the track. So it's a weird strategy around Brad. Sophia absolutely sideways coming through Surtees, and wow, did well to hold on to that one. But the pack stretching out a bit now. Yeah, and the pack
Yeah, we're
stretching
getting into that kind of nearly halfway into. Interesting development there. Pedro, unfortunately, looks like he's had a crossing of the pit lane, maybe potentially on entry or exit. Obviously, you're not quite sure, but does pick himself up a 3-second penalty, which will kind of hurt his race a little bit, but hopefully not too much. Obviously, being on the fresher set of tyres, hopefully he'll be able to fight towards the end of the stint. But it looks like Sophia will be coming in shortly because that fuel light is on,
So
and we know
Max,
that the Corvette is very gas guzzling. But yeah, the front two into that was very close with those two. A little bit of kind of a little tap to the barrier.
I think these two are going to come out absolutely side by side, depending on, well, if they take on the same amount of fuel, they're going to come out at the same time, I feel. But yeah, both of them very close to both the pit line, and I think Sophia clunked the wall a little bit as well, but just about got away with it.
Look, max velocity, front end damage.
Oh, he did pick up damage.
Front end damage, he did clip the wall. So unfortunately, coming into the pits, he has clipped the wall, and that does pick himself up a bit of damage. I'm sure he'll probably look to try and repair that as quick as he can. Obviously, he's already in the pits, but yeah, he looks like he's repaired that.
Sophia jumped in.
Got it out on. I think it's that thing. If he didn't have the damage, and obviously didn't have any damage to fix, he would have come out alongside or like right on top of kind of Sophia. But unfortunately, having to fix a little bit of a front bumper meant that he had to spend that a little bit longer in the pits. Unfortunately.
Yeah, quite right. And now we're in the scenario of the drivers that have pitted more often are out the front, but with significantly less fuel, so it is impossible to tell who is the outright leader at the moment. My bet would almost be on probably Sophia with a full tank of fuel, well, 3/4 tank of fuel almost, and fresh soft tyres, but Sophia being in fourth, 2-3 turns behind Katie Lakai on under a quarter and worn softs. Weirdly enough, it's sort of a battle between them at the moment.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. Obviously, Midnight just behind him on a fresh set of softs as well. So I think Midnight's softs are a little bit fresher than KD Lakai's. So obviously KD Lakai having a lot less fuel than Midnight as well. So Midnight in a good position here to try and challenge KD Lakai shortly. But yeah, as well, I'm sure McLaren will be very happy. You know, P3 after obviously the kind of the first stint not going in his favour. But yeah, I've got to say, you know, Sophia, unfortunately, she did obviously have that massive off-track excursion, but it's not kind of hurt her too much as yet. I think obviously the different strategies at play, it's meant that, you know, some of the drivers are probably waiting for their strategies to kind of come into play. As for the likes of Pedro, obviously that pit stop has brought him down to kind of P7, but obviously he's going for the kind of the longer game, so towards the end of the race we'll probably see him back in or around the podium. But like you say, around here it kind of is playing a little bit more into the favour of the people that have come into the pits that more often, like your Katie Lakai's, your Midnights. So yeah, it's going to be interesting to see whether it's kind of pit more, go on a fresh set of tyres, or kind of play the long game.
Speaking of playing the long game, as you said, Pedro's gone for the medium tyres again, so he's still yet to use his second set of compound tyres, so he will be probably faster towards the end, I would imagine. I think he went 20 laps. He'll be going somewhere near 39-40 laps as he cuts a corner massively. That might give him a half-second penalty. He might just get away with it. Nope, there you go. And sorry mate, bad timing. But himself and Joker have gone for different strategies. Joker on the hard tyre again. So I don't think he'll be going to the end, and that seems a bit too far. But Joker definitely thinking long game at the moment with those hard tyres around Brands Hatch.
Yeah, and obviously cutting across to the battle between Sophia and McManley. Sophia, very brave move there into paddock kill pen, goes on the inside line. He clips that apex and forces McManley onto that wider line. And through Druids as well, she sticks to that inside line, which obviously is the racing line around those first couple of corners. So yeah, just, you know, gets her nose in front and sticks in front. And I'm sure that would have caught McManley a little bit by surprise, but obviously the tyre of Sophia is in better state than McManley at the minute. But yeah, pretty good move from Sophia. They're very brave around those first couple of corners, but manages to get it done.
Yeah, absolutely outstanding move there. And Sophia, little known that she's on motion controls with the controller, so driving like with a wheel, but with a controller. So interesting method that she takes, but it definitely works for her, and it's definitely, as you said, caught Mac by surprise on that one, as catching me by surprise. We have a pit stop from Katie Nakai again, so that's his third one in 24 laps.
Yeah, I'm always surprised, and I'll probably always say that Corvette is such a guzzling car. You compared to the drivers around him, he always seems to have that little bit less fuel. Obviously, Sophia as well being in the same car. The Corvette being, so kind of
Soft
drinking all that fuel. It's gonna be tough towards the end for those two. But too bad. It brings him out of P4 just behind McManley, so he's still in or around the podium. But he's got the likes of, McManley. Oh, gets very squirrely around coming out of Druids. But obviously, being on the fresher set of tyres on the softs as well, he's going to have a pace advantage against McManley here. So I would imagine he's going to eye up a move before kind of Hawthorns. But
defensive.
It looks like Mac was asking for a little bit of a push there. But they're going side by side here.
Round the outside for Katie Nakai.
Oh, I'm not sure if he
Mac's
quite gets
holding
it
him.
done.
Mac held him. That's a great bit of defensive driving. Kai won't be particularly happy about that, because he'll be wanting to get on with it and then put in some fast laps. So it looks like Mac is just sticking on the inside of all the tight corners, now coming through Sheens, and all getting very sideways coming down into Sterling's, and Mac holding him up. Mac's Velocity now joining the party.
Yeah, I've got to say, what a cracking defensive kind of move from McManley there. Although Katie Nakai sticking to the outside. Oh, the two side by side. Oh, a little bit of a collision between McManley and Kai there, and it nearly forced Kai into the stand. So I think, if we didn't have an angry Katie Nakai, we do now. And I'm sure he'll be trying to get back up on the back of Max Velocity and McManley and try, again for that move. But I think, during that last lap, there's definitely access denied from McManley there. He was, whenever Katie Nakai was trying to get through, McManley was just shutting the door right in his face and saying no. But obviously, we like a good defensive drive, and obviously McManley's showing that at the moment. But obviously, he's got two drivers that are on the set of tyres, so he's going to have to be very defensive against Max Velocity here. It's almost that thing, it's picking your battles. Obviously, the two behind on the soft tyres, should he kind of not let them through, but should he kind of think, right, they're on a different strategy to me, I'm on the mediums, my tyres are a little bit worn compared to the two behind me. Do I kind of not, defend with my life, but kind of defend enough to keep them back? But it's that thing. I think I would not let them through, but I think cleverly that they're on a different strategy to me.
Kai might be going for the inside move after Max round wide coming out of Sterling's. Kai getting the move done down into the Clark curve and sneaking up to P4. Very opportunistic from Kai there. But like you were saying, Sarah, Mac, well, does he focus on, I'm not going to say ruining other people's strategies, but put the big fly in the old ointment, making them waste their soft tyres while he's thinking about his own next pit stop on the old tyres. There's a little bit of contact into Druids between Kai and Mac. Kai lucky not to dent his nose on that one. But does he sit there and block the guys behind him from getting through and maximise his own potential for slowing them up?
Yes, I think obviously that being defensive, you're not necessarily thinking about your tyre wear. You're not really thinking about prolonging your stint. I think McManley's going to caught in that thing. Does he fight? Does he defend? Does he let them through because they're on slightly different strategies? It's all these scenarios are probably playing in McManley's head right now. But he seems to being quite defensive at the minute. He's trying to keep Katie Nakai and Max Velocity behind him. It's going to come that point shortly that I don't know, I think it's going to hamper McManley's tyre wear if he kind of continues to fight and defend this hard.
Well, I don't think he's got much tyres left, nor has he got much fuel, so he might even be in this lap. Is he settling on belligerence and not letting anyone through? Or is he a little bit stuck with the... No, he's not coming in. Kai was there. He couldn't have come in if he tried.
I was going to say, I think McManley did want to come into the pits there, but Katie Nakai on the inside line obviously prevented him from coming in. I did see a little bit of a kind of a right-hand turn of McManley.
Here goes
So
Kai.
I think he was a bit surprised that Katie Nakai was there. As you see, Katie Nakai going on the inside line round Druids, manages to get that move done. But McManley very kind of sideways coming out of that corner. But it just goes to show, you know, being on the fresher set, Katie Nakai has got the pace advantage over McManley, but it's brought him back into the clutches of Max Velocity. I'm sure Max Velocity now looking obviously after the last few corners of McManley, he'll be trying to eye up and move as quick as he can.
Yeah, couldn't agree more. It looks like Mac was a little bit surprised around Druids, tried to put his foot down, and then the rear tyres went, nope, no grip there. And it's Max looking into Hawthorns, but Mac covering the racing lines, just clearly just drove straight into the corner.
I don't know about you, but I'm fearing that Mac is literally about to run out of fuel.
Yeah, they had crossed my mind.
It's gonna be close. I think when Mac comes in, it's gonna either read 1 or 0% because he's kind of fine on that fuel gauge. But yeah, like I said, I think Mac did want to come in last lap, but Katie the guy being on that inside line prevented him from doing so. As we see McManley graciously coming into the pits now, and I'm sure he'll be very happy that no one was on that inside line stopping him from going around again, because that could have been very awkward for Mac there.
Yeah, a new race leader for Sophia, who's back up into P1 as pit stops going off around her. Mac in the pits again, as you said, but now we're back up to Sophia and Kai P2. He seems to come out of absolutely nowhere. He's 5th and then he's 2nd.
Yeah, and it just goes to show, you know, when you've got that pace, you can make those kind of little mistakes here and there, and it's not gonna affect your race too much. Obviously, the likes of Sophia as well. I did think he was going to go very sideways into that corner there, but manages to hold it straight. Yeah, obviously 2 Corvettes back in front, very similar to the first stint, but obviously 2 on slightly different strategies. It's going to be kind of hard to call who's going to win out of the 2 of them at the moment, but yeah, I'm sure Sophia will be very happy that she's back in the lead, and hopefully, you know, she'll try and do everything in her powers to prevent Katie the Kai from coming through, although it does look like Katie the Kai has got a bit of a tyre advantage on Sophia at the moment, even if slightly, but I'm sure that's going to play in Katie the Kai's favour here.
I'm starting to wonder if Katie the Kai is doing rallying at this stage. I see him on the grass most corners. He seems to find a traction out there, so he's making it work. But yeah, that's it's a battle to watch at the moment, I fear. And we've still got Joker running high in P4 on that alternative strategy on those hard tyres, so a couple of battles coming up, I feel. Battle for P1 and battle for P4.
Yeah, obviously Joker must be, you know, a fan of using tyres. He must it's the only driver really to use them in the last couple of races, so he must know that through the practice that he's done, that Ferrari, it's kind of, I don't know, brutal on tyres, so going for that harder compound, obviously when you've got drivers around you on the softs and obviously coming in to pit every so often for their soft tyres, it's that thing. I'm not sure if the hard tyres...
Move shaping up here, Sarah. Move shaping up.
Yeah, obviously we see Midnight just behind on the soft tyres again. But he looks like he's going for a move on Joker here, around Hawthorns, around the outside. Very brave move there, but using all of the track to his advantage, and gets in front of Joker with a nice clean overtake. And like I said, very brave, very clean, and obviously a lot of respect between the two. Joker, you know, not forcing him out too wide.
Speaking of another move, and I'm putting the move around the outside of Hawthorns down for overtaking the season, but Kai looks like he's going to be trying to put a move around Sophia down the outside of the final corner for overtaking the season as well. So it looks like or maybe even into paddock. So it looks like all overtakes are happening in weird and wonderful places today. But it looks like Kai down the inside at Druids gets up to first place, takes that position off Sophia. That those much better tyres from the soft tyres of Kai are doing him absolute justice at the moment. He has also got about the same fuel load as well. I can only feel that Kai is using more fuel than Sophia in the same car, because every time I keep seeing Kai running low on fuel. But that said, it could be down to the fuel map you're running, driving style, it could be down to absolutely anything. But between these two, it is very close. At the moment, it does look like Kai has the speed, but I can only feel that Kai might have another 2 stops left to go. He's already on his 3rd stop. So, well, we'll just have to wait and see what happens. But Max Velocity in P3, still, he's had a good, solid race. He hasn't done in much the way overtaking, but he's driven his car exactly how he needed to. And that has allowed him just to pick up what is currently P3 and just solidly stay there. So good long pace driving from Max Velocity there.
Yeah, couldn't agree more. Obviously he had a little bit of a stint in the lead a little bit ago, but managing to hold on to his position so far, as we see Sophia into the pits already, and I'm wondering if she's going to take it on as much fuel as possible, and maybe a kind of a harder compound of tyres, maybe in the mediums. We shall see. But yeah, obviously, like you say, Max Velocity, very, very clear. Like, he's just kind of done his own race at the moment. He's he knows that he's not kind of battling Katie the Kai, Sophia at the minute. He's just trying to keep it clean, keep it consistent.
Sophia, she's out.
Like I said, picking up quite a lot of fuel. Although I'm not sure if that will be enough to get her to the end.
It's going to be close.
It's going to be close. I reckon she's going to have to pit again. And obviously 32 laps in. It's going to...
15, 16 to go.
Yeah, it's going to be close, especially in that Corvette. We know it's not kind of the best for tyre wear and fuel, so I'm sure we're going to probably see the Corvette drivers back in again before the end. But yeah, obviously Midnight not too far behind Max Velocity here, only probably about a corner behind. So I'm sure
Max
Velocity's tyres do. Yeah, I was going to say Max Velocity's tyre wear does look like it's seen better days compared to Midnight's. Obviously Midnight put in a few laps ago. But going back to the strategies, it really... well, especially in this kind of, I'd say probably 2/3 into the race, the aggressive strategy has really played into kind of some of the drivers' court. Yeah, obviously tyre wear not too bad, but fuel definitely kind of crucial coming in for fuel. And going back to your point about Katie the Kite, like you say, it does burn through quite a lot of fuel, and obviously that does put Max Velocity back into the lead, and I'm sure he'll be very happy about that. But he knows that there's an ever closing in Midnight who will be eager to take his place. But yeah, I think that Corvette of Katie Kai does burn through a lot of fuel, and I think obviously that does mean that sometimes when he doesn't want to have to pit because of tyres, he has to because of fuel. And I think that's the difference between Sophia and Katie Kai. They're very kind of similar tyre wear, but very different fuel. And obviously, like you say, it can come down to fuel mixes or kind of driving styles. But interesting to see the battle of the Corvettes, who's going to come out first. But keeping on board with McManley here, obviously in P7, it kind of settled into the race, and I think little by little he's adapting to those new physics, and it's kind of good to see him still running after that technical difficulty in the sprint race.
Yeah, and he has, interestingly, gone for hard tyres, so he should be going to the end. And just giving you an insight on Katie, Kai and Sophia, looks like Kai took on less fuel, so he's definitely going to stop again. So I think he's on a 5-stopper. So forgive me if it's 4 or 5, it's a lot more than some other people around here. And like Max Velocity, who has taken what looks like 2-stopper. So yeah, interesting change in strategies.
Talking about Max Velocity, we've got Midnight right behind him through Paddock Hill Bend, and Midnight going onto the inside line here through Druids. Is he going to try and get the move done? Max Velocity moves to the outside line, Midnight on the inside line, clips that apex perfectly and gets in front of Max Velocity. Like I said, Midnight eager to get Max Velocity's place and get into the lead and try and kind of create a little bit of a gap to the drivers behind him. But obviously that tyre wear of Max Velocity does look like it's about to fall off of a cliff.
Yeah, and one dark horse in the race, we haven't spoken much about him. Pedro, still running P4. I can only fear he's got another pit stop to do, and he's got Katie the Kai chasing him down, so it does look like almost with this strategy, Katie the Kai is relying on just blinding speed. And unfortunately, he's put him in the pack more often than not. That's the problem with going with an aggressive soft tyre strategy. Is this going to cost Katie the Kai? But we've got Sophia. I feel that she is going to the end. Only 13 laps more to go with just over half a tank. I think that can be done. Again, yeah, we have to wait and see. At the moment, looking at it, just looking at all the strategies playing out, it's interesting. I'm sure Max is going to be in this lap. His rear left is dead. Yep, he's coming in the pits, which is going to... Oh! Yeah, contact in the pits.
Oh, and that nearly prevents Joker from coming into the pits. Luckily, the Max Velocity's McLaren did temporarily go invisible for Joker to get through. But yeah, very, very close. And obviously, unfortunately, Max Velocity coming foul to that tight kind of pit entry of Brands Hatch again for the second time.
Yep, that's what happens when you push the limit a little too hard each time. That's dropped him at least 2 places. That is unfortunate for him. He was looking very, very strong, even challenged for a podium. So hopefully he can still get a top P5, but he's going to have Joker out ahead of him for his final stop for certain now, who's on the medium tyres. Mac is making his way through, which he should be going to the end as well. But now it's soft tyres to the end for Max Velocity, but he should be able to get on par with Mac fairly quickly given the tyre delta. But at the moment, again, I'm just keeping an eye on Katie Nakai and Pedro, see what happens there.
Yeah, so I'm not. we did lose Sophie quite
early on.
Early on into the race, unfortunately. I was just having a look at Coach as well. Obviously, we haven't talked really too much about Coach. Obviously, on a slightly different kind of race, probably after that first lap collision with, unfortunately, Katie Nakai's start. But, you know, still driving around. And like you said, probably a lot of data gathering from today. But, you know, still running around in P9, doing a remarkable job. And obviously, sad to see that Sophie with the technical difficulties. But obviously ripping and tearing in P8 as well. Kind of, again, that 4GT, it's not... Obviously we say it's not kind of suited to many tracks, but I think Brands Hatch, it's one of those tracks that it's probably... I'd say it's probably the 4GT is one of its least favourites, with kind of those undulations of, you know, Paddock Hill bends.
Move for P2,
Druid.
Sorry Sarah, I just got Pedro coming through 30s.
Yeah, obviously, I think that like you said, with the tyre delta, it's kind of no surprise that Katie Nakai was managing to get in front of Pedro, and I think you kind of hit the nail on the head there with Katie Nakai. I think with his strategy, he's simply relying on speed, and speed is key. So, you know, trying his best to push the limits of the track, also to get to the end. Unfortunately, I just joined Rip and Tearing as he's made a slight mistake coming off of the exit of Paddock Hill Bend, which does let Coach through into P8. And like I said, just talking about these two drivers doing a pretty good job so far, and obviously the 4GT, quite a difficult car to handle around here. But obviously with that recent pit stop, it's dropped Max Velocity into P7, so it's going to be a bit of a kind of a tough ask for him to get back in or around the podium. But saying that, some of the drivers around him are going to have to pit. Obviously not McManley on those hards, but the tyre delta, it's going to be tough for McManley to defend from a few drivers here.
Agreed. And one thing we have yet to see is Kai go for anything other than a soft tyre, so he definitely needs to I believe use a medium or a hard tyre still yet. But he's still going to be very, very quick towards the end as other drivers are on aging tyres. But the whole race isn't all about tyres, it is all about the speed and strategy and how good your manoeuvres are on track. But Kai proving that he has everything. We've even seen incidents with him off track in the sprint and feature race, almost rallying, and he's still running P2, so blindingly quick. But I do worry he's going to come out in a lot of traffic later on after his final stop.
Yeah, and obviously because of the tyre rule, he is going to obviously have to go on a different compound, and it's almost that thing when you've driven so much of the race on one compound, trying to switch to a different one, and obviously the different tyre physics, it might, you know, cost Katie Nakai. But here at Midnight back into the pits with 10 laps to go. Obviously I'm unsure if he's gone on a different set of tyres, so we might see Midnight go for a medium here, get that two tyre rule compound out of the way.
Well, I can tell you mediums for the first stint.
So I'm assuming another set of softs. I could be wrong. This is what you're going to tell me now. I went on the hards for the last 10 laps, but knowing you, I think you're probably going on another set of softs. And yes, it does. Should have guessed it. I think toward the end of the season, I need to have a count of how many times Midnight has used a soft set of tyres. I'm sure, you know, he's quite close to some of the drivers around him, but I always see Midnight on the softs. So at the end, I think we're going to need to count on how many times this season you've used that compound of tyre. But not taking anything away from you, P4, dropping down to P4 just behind Sophia on a fresh set of softs. He's gonna try and fight, he's gonna try and get past Sophia here.
Well, I can tell you now, some drivers don't like certain compounds of tyres, like the balance. It's not the overall grip, it's the balance. When it comes to the Mclaren in particular, as Pedro picks up a half-second penalty round Sheens, the McLaren, with myself, I don't like the hards or the mediums all that much. I just prefer the balance, and that car being very good on the endurance side, maybe not the fastest, does allow me to run the softer tyre for longer than, say, a Corvette around me. But that said, the differential in pace is almost like a step slower in compound, so it kind of evens out. But yeah, I think you're going to need a counter to see how many pit stops and soft tyres I've run this season.
But like you say, if you're comfortable on that tyre, then there's no real reason, to get out of your comfort zone and go on, a compound of tyre that you're not necessarily comfortable with, or kind of don't have that, that confidence in it kind of bringing you to the end of the race. So, and I think you've put yourself in a good position here to catch Sophia towards the end. Obviously, Sophia on the medium tyres, she's going to struggle a little bit towards the end with fuel compared to Midnight. Obviously, the McLaren is quite strong, like you say. It's not necessarily the fastest car on the grid that we've got, but endurance-wise, it's quite reliable, and it will get you to the end on a reliable amount of fuel and tyres. So, yeah. Unfortunately, obviously, Pedro picking up a half-second penalty. Because Pedro's on a slightly different strategy to, say, Sophia and Midnight, I don't think it's going to cost him too much. As we see, he's going to have to come into the pits. That fuel light has turned on and it is blinking at him. But he's managed to overtake Ripin de Terran. Unfortunately, obviously, that brings Ripin de Terran a lap down. But we've got
Cayenne.
The car
I think
already. Yeah, I was going to say that soft. It almost just kind of just.
I think
obliterated.
I think he's avoiding as Pedro goes around again for some reason. I think Kaya is avoiding going in that the cliff drop off section of the tyres. So he just wants to be. He's going to have to be medium, so the final stint, I believe. But he's avoiding going anywhere near the cliff drop off of the tyres, because he's going to come out in P4 directly behind these two.
Yeah, and like you say, on the medium, so he's ticked the box of the 2-tyre compound roll. Obviously, with only 7 laps to go, get the best out of those mediums. Although, like you say, it's going to be kind of difficult to adjust to the balance of the mediums. But he brought himself out in a pretty good position, just behind Sophia and Midnight.
Well,
so it's definitely still on for Kai here.
I'm going to ask you, Sarah, who's going to win this race now out of the top 5? Who? 7 laps go. Can you guess who's going to win this race?
I'm going. That's tough. That's kind of like asking who's your favourite child.
Bradley.
But
I don't know who Bradley is, but I'm just going to say Bradley.
Seeing how close these guys are, I'm kind of just seeing the two, kind of the compounds of the different drivers. I'm going to say either yourself, Midnight, or Katie the Kai. I'm not quite sure. If I had to bet, if I was a betting person, I don't know who to bet on.
Well, I'm not giving anything away. Pedro pits, and one would say that's going to be for the soft tyres. So he's going to be lightning quick in the final stint. A little bit of fuel is going to come to win the fight as well.
Yeah, although unfortunately I think he's kind of offset himself a little bit to this kind of top 3 battle. It's going to bring him out quite far back from Sophia Midnight and Katie the Kai. Obviously being on a slightly different strategy. I think Pedro just managed to get just in front of Joker there. Very close between the two. But obviously going back to this front battle here. Obviously yourself, Midnight, you're on the softs, Katie the Kai on the mediums. Too early to call, I think. I'm not quite sure who's going to win this. But I'm sure you're going to make my even more difficult, trying to guess and trying to kind of make sure that I don't miss anything with the next 6 laps.
All I can say is very, very sweaty. That's all I'm going to say.
But yeah, I've got to say, this top 3 battle is pretty much kind of, it's been a battle of the ages. from what I remember, obviously the different strategies have kind of offset Sophia Midnight and Katie Decry from the other competitors, but these three have definitely kind of been around the same sort of part of the track for the majority of the race. So I'm sure after the race they'll definitely kind of be celebrating the performance, because they've had, I mean, all the drivers have, but especially this top three of Sophia Midnight and Katie Decry, they've kind of been in a different race, obviously different strategies. Especially Midnight and Katie Decry, they've gone very, very aggressive, pitting numerous times, sticking on the softs until they've obviously had to go on the mediums. Midnight going on the mediums first, getting that out of the way with. Katie Decry obviously going slightly different.
Well,
so, yeah, that's why I think it's just too close to quarters. Sophia goes quite wide, Midnight on the inside line. He's not going to stick to the inside line. He does it, but Katie Decry saw an opportunity there, tried to kind of go in the middle of these two, but thinks better of it. Midnight and Sophia still side by side. Oh, a little bit of team play there from Katie Decry, pushing Midnight. So Midnight trying to get in front of Sophia here. A little bit of an interesting move there from Katie Decry, thinking, I can't quite get past Sophia, but Midnight can. But I'm sure you appreciate that little bit of a push there from Katie Decry. But yeah, Sophia obviously still holding P1 at the moment, but this battle for the top three, oh my god, it's close.
all I can say is I'm smiling and just looking at, you got a 2-stop, a 3-stop, and I think a 4 or 5-stop driver in there, and it's all come together in the final sector of this race with all three nose to tail.
Yeah, that's one way to say it, nose to tail. I think it's you're kind of looking like you're all connected to each other. You're all going for those similar moves. You're all kind of keeping your head up, but staying in the slipstream with each other. So yeah, I've got to say I've very enjoyed this battle here. As Midnight goes slightly wide coming out of Druids, which obviously does mean Katie Decry tries to get in front, but thinks better of it again. Also, Midnight goes wide, Katie Decry on the inside line. I think, unfortunately, Midnight conceding the place there to Katie Decry by going slightly wide. But Katie Decry going slightly wide, so the two, obviously the aggressive pit stoppers, as I'm going to call them now, going slightly wide, which does give Sophia a little bit of breathing room for a few corners. But I'm sure Midnight and Katie Decry will try their best to close that gap again.
Yeah, I mean, that was one of those moments where one goes wide, the other goes wide, the other one goes narrow, and then unfortunately it does allow Sophia a little bit of breathing room for a little while. But as we all know, it's never over till it's over.
Especially with these guys, they kind of they wait until the last lap to kind of do those last lap battles, as we all know and love. Especially obviously Autopolis last week, it was the final corner of the last lap that it all unfolded. So I'm sure these drivers are gonna make me wait again and make me wait to the bitter end, and obviously another photo finish to add to the books. But obviously, just having a quick look across the grid as this battle's going on. We have Pedro in P4, just about to come across through onto lap 44 and through Paddock Hill. We've then got Joker in P5, not too far
Sophia's
behind Pedro.
half spin.
Oh no, a little bit of a spin, a half spin from Sophia there, which does drop her back into P3. And I'm sure Midnight will be saying thank you very much for that position there. But obviously, Sophia not dropping too far back, so she might be able to fight a little bit. Obviously, being on the mediums, she might have that little bit more tyre weight, although her fuel levels do look a little bit kind of dicey at the moment. Obviously 3 laps to go, it should be enough. Very similar to Midnight. Obviously that Corvette very gas guzzling, so it's going to be tough. But yeah, cool. As you can, I think the drivers, they wait for me to go and see someone else for it to all unfold. But I was just going on with Max Velocity going through the second sector. Seems to be doing quite a good job. Obviously, different strategy meant that he did lead quite a bit of the race, but unfortunately in P6 at the minute, but which is still pretty good. In P7 we then have Manley after quite an interesting start to the race, and obviously on the hard it was on the hards, now on the softs. So potentially try and go for see how fast he can go, potentially set a fastest lap, although that 1:23 flat of Katie Decry is going to be extremely hard to beat.
Well, he was only
indicate we
about
didn't have
400ths
coach.
behind, so he's done a cracking job on the old pace, but unfortunately it's a bit too late in running P7.
Yeah, unfortunately, like you say, maybe just that little bit too late. But I think it was a steep learning curve for McManley this race. Obviously, first race back into the championship, and obviously first race on the new physics. It's a lot to learn in such a little time. So I mean, credit where credit's due. I think McManley's done a pretty good job to try and learn it all within a sprint and a feature race.
I would agree. I would absolutely agree. Yeah, it's a tricky one, particularly if it's your first race, and yeah, it's a hard place to get it right. With the new physics, if you try and turn the front wheel even slightly too hard, you lock up quite badly. So it's a learning experience, and he'll come back stronger, hopefully, for Kwabi in the next race.
Yeah, hopefully we'll see him back before the end of the season. Obviously, we know that with Max kind of schooling and work commitments, we don't always get to see him, but when we do, it's always a pleasure. As Sophia picks up a half-second penalty coming out of the GP section back onto the Indy, and obviously onto lap 46, 2 laps to go. Is that going to cost her in that battle for P2? Potentially, as might drop her that a little bit too far back as well. Obviously, fuel as well, she's going to have to look after it. I've seen the indicator, flashing that she's only probably got a lap and so to go.
Yeah, it's going to be tight.
See, it's going to be very tight indeed. As we see, Katie Dekai just overtaking Ripin Terran, and Midnight looking to get in front of Ripin Terran again here as well. But it's going to be tight. But I think Midnight's kind of secured his P2 at the minute. I'm still kind of waiting to see. I think I don't want to say it, I don't want to jinx it, but I think Katie Dekai might sealed his fate with a P1. That tyre wear on the mediums, it's doing a lot better compared to the softs earlier that he was driving around on. But again, the two Corvettes, it's fuel is going to be the main concern for them, as opposed to Midnight, who he knows that McLaren is not going to kind of let him down on fuel, but the tyre wear, it's going to be tough.
Yeah, I'm starting to get worried about Sophia, actually. That is very, very low fuel amount as we get into the final lap. Kai is also very close, but a little bit more. Yeah, that's going to be something to keep an eye on, Sarah.
Yeah, I think Ripin Terran nearly coming into... Ripin Terran does unfortunately get in a little bit of Sophia's way, and does get kind of punted through Paddock Hill. I'm sure Sophia will... unfortunately, didn't want that to happen. Terran obviously is not an easy place to pass on Paddock Hill. But yeah, they're going back to the grid. Obviously, Katie Dekai. It's gonna be tight with the fuel, but I think he's got it. Like I say, I don't want to jinx it, because whenever I say something, then drivers do the opposite. But I think try getting that kind of. I'm not even. I've lost count myself. If it's a 4-stop or a 5-stop, trying to get that strategy to work, he's done a mega job.
Yeah, whatever stoppage it is, it's 4 or 5, he's done very, very well. Sophia is running severely low on fuel. She's going to have her 0 at best of fuel as she crosses the line. Andrew is only 3 or 4 seconds behind as well, so if she runs out, it's going to be absolutely devastating for her. But Katie Dekai is going to take the win, Sarah.
Yeah, and a very commanding lead, I shall say. P1 after that 5-stop strategy. Obviously, don't get to see it very often, but it just shows his pace.
She's out of fuel.
Oh no, she crawled it across the line. Unfortunately, I think she just had enough just to get her across the line, but very close to Pedro. And I'm sure Pedro would be like, "Damn it, I was this close." But yeah, I think potentially if Sophia brought on a little bit more fuel, that might have seen her potentially be a little bit closer to Midnight towards the end. But yeah, obviously coming across the start-finish straight, we have Max Velocity in P6. We then join McManley. Oh, that has a big snap of oversteer coming out of that blind corner and coming out into the final few corners here. Like I say, credit where credit's due. It's been a very steep learning curve for McManley. So P7, nothing to be upset about. And I'm sure the more races he does, and hopefully he'll join us again, the stronger he'll get, and he'll get back up to that kind of podium positions.
Yeah,
And
good recovery from Coach.
I was literally about to say that Coach, got caught up in that first lap kind of drama, but manages to get P8 in front of ripping tearing is a result for him. And obviously point scoring positions, and it's crucial this kind of far into the season. Points are definitely going to get tighter towards the end, and obviously people fighting for positions in the championship, any points is helpful. So I'm sure Coach will be very thankful that he managed and he saw the race out, and hopefully come back stronger in the Sync 5B.
Yeah, I completely agree with that. Not the most fun race for a few of the drivers on the grid. Unfortunately, Sophie not making it around more than half the race due to a disconnect. Difficult race for, say, Rippon Terran and Coach due to the first lap incident, and Mac very much learning on the spot, showing he had all of that pace. However, the tyre wear and the physics catching him out, unfortunately. But here we will get stronger, particularly at a track that he adores, Sync 5B, hopefully for the next race. But otherwise, Sarah, there are a mix of strategies in there for the top 4, top 5. Sophia just hanging on to P3 at the end there by, I think it was less than a second. So a little bit lucky, but you've got to have a little bit of luck to get away with this. And Kai, despite having damage and that first lap incident, taking the win. And what can you say about him? He's devastatingly quick, but it's a bit lucky. So he's definitely lent on the luck this one. So well done to him, I feel.
Oh yeah, 100%. His raw pace meant that he was able to make that kind of multiple pit stop strategy work, and it's very hard to do that because you obviously, like you say, sometimes you get caught out with traffic, you get caught out kind of other things happening, like kind of track limit penalties. But for the majority of it, unfortunately they made a few mistakes at the start of the race, but that didn't seem to affect him at all in that final few stints. So I've got to give it to Katie the Kai. He was storming round Brands Hatch, and like I say, that Mac was close, but that fastest lap time as well, it was very hard for any of the drivers to beat him. So it just shows his raw pace around here. Yeah,
cannot deny that. But I'm going to ask you, Sarah, since you're going to be the impartial one here, driver of the day.
Another tough one to call. I've got to. I'm thinking of two, but I'm gonna give it to Katie the Kai because of making that multiple pit stop strategy work and raw pace, and kind of, although he kind of showed that mentality that although he made a few mistakes, he carried on, he didn't give up, and he believed in himself, and he knew in himself that he could probably make up for those mistakes, and he did. He came away with a win. But I mean, honourable shout out to yourself as well, Midnight, going on that aggressive pit stop strategy. You were very close to him, so I'll give it to Katie the Kai, but I think obviously a close second for you as well, Midnight.
I'd call that fair. I do think Kai's pace around here was absolutely unreal in a car that isn't entirely suited to this track, but he definitely made it work. And what can you say about him other than absolutely great raw pace? And I do want to give a shout out to Pedro, who somewhere in there I believe had a half spin as well as that 3-second penalty for the pit lane infraction. So he was absolutely knocking on the door of the top 2 and 3. So I know he was disappointed by the result, but at the end of the day, he came into the event as the championship leader, and I believe he'll still leave as championship leader, if a little bit closer. But if that's a bad race, what can you say? That's still a good result. Top 4.
Oh, 100%. I think with Pedro, we all know how fast he is. Obviously, he's on a slightly different strategy to the top 3. We're going kind of more not normal strategy, but kind of more of a typical strategy that we would assume people would be using around here, kind of pitting not as many times as the top 3, going on the softs and the mediums that kind of not dragging them out, but kind of using them for as long as he can. Obviously, like you said, that first stint, he went from kind of lap 1 to 20 on the mediums. He kind of used the whole kind of the life of those medium tyres to get him that far into the race. So obviously, being on a slightly different strategy to the top three did offset him from the podium just that little bit. P4, that's nothing to be kind of frowned upon. And like you say, major points. Still, fighting for that championship lead. So, like you say, if that's a bad race, then
I'd like a bad race more often if that's the case.
Oh yeah, if that's a bad race, I want a bad race.
Yeah.
But I've got to say, hands up to Pedro as well. Pedro is one of those kind of consistent drivers. Yes, unfortunately, sometimes some things don't go his way. Obviously, that kind of little bit of a collision between himself and Max Velocity did kind of put him on the back foot, but he managed to make a good situation out of it.
Yeah, completely agree. And I do want to give a shout out both to Joker, and from my own perspective, which I can say that move around Hawthorns was putting complete faith in Joker, and Joker, with these strategies, pulls out some really interesting ones. So I always adore seeing him on track. So more of that, if you please. And Max Velocity held the race lead for a number of laps today, but unfortunately seemed to be defeated by a pit wall. Unfortunately, as we know, Sarah, that does happen to some of us occasionally, doesn't it?
Yeah, unfortunately, especially obviously a track like Brands Hatch, it happens kind of just that a little bit more often. But yeah, all in all, I think obviously different to Autopolis, but similar in the fact that you've got one of those elevation changes. You've kind of got the twisty turny section of the GP. Obviously, this one's more of a high speed track. So obviously, from drivers to go from Autopolis to Brands Hatch, they probably would have used some of the experiences that they found out from the previous round, but obviously gone in and attacked it more of kind of from a different perspective. So to drive 47 laps around Brands Hatch is no easy feat by any means. So for any driver to drive that race distance and be within the a few seconds away from their competitors, or the top three, right, like you said earlier, I can't remember the phrase you used, nose to tail. I think that was the best way to describe it. The drivers were so close to each other around this track, which is not easy to do.
Yeah, I do think the standard of racing in this event was fantastic. We saw a lot of the same in the Blue Lobby as well, which I urge anyone to check out on YouTube. But the standard of racing has been absolutely outstanding for the last couple of races. So again, more of that, and well done to all the drivers out there.
Yeah, couldn't agree more. I'm excited to see any drivers that wanted to talk a little bit about their race. But obviously we move on to S03-R07, which is again a very, very difficult track, one that I'm a little bit not nervous for, but it's a track that we don't go to very often. Again, very different characteristics from the other tracks that we've driven in the season so far. So it's gonna be another tough track for the drivers to try and to race around and to learn quickly. But I'm excited to see how all the drivers get on. But thank you for joining me, Midnight, and round Brands Hatch, and we move on to round number 8. So we're going into the closing stages of the championship, so it's going to be fun from here.
Yep, can only say I'm looking forward to it. Let's have some fun, and move onwards with the rest of the calendar. Been a pleasure.
Yeah, that rounds us off. Let's go and hear from the podium drivers, but we will see you shortly for S03-R07 round 8, and see you there, or be square.
Okay, Brands Hatch sprint race. F1's got a really good start. Started at P6. Got off the line nicely. Held off Sophia's challenge. Going down the hill there. Into the hairpin. And managed to slip underneath Coach up into P3. So, yeah, great start. Happy with that. Then following Sophie. And ripping to tear him. Sophie glitched through, is it Sheen corner, and reappeared actually inside on top of Ribbon to Tear Him, who ran wide. I took advantage of that, slipped up into P2. So yeah, that's where I stayed for most of the race. Couldn't challenge Sophie. She was just way too quick for me. I was really struggling on just getting the braking right in turn 1 really. I just wasn't fast through there all day. I was just concentrating on keeping it clean, keeping it on track, and try and bring that podium home. So yeah, Sophie gone, she disappeared, and Sophie was catching me with the last 5-6 laps. Yeah, I was filling in a Sophie sandwich for most of that race. Managed to hold her off until the very last lap, where she got a really good exit out of that left-hander going down the back straight, and got past me, and I followed her home. So yeah, P3, really happy with that. Congratulations, Sophies. You two were just quick, much quicker than me. So yeah, congratulations. Yeah, let's spray the champagne. Woohoo! Feature race didn't go quite so well. Again, got a really good start. Qualified on the medium tyre. Managed to get up right to the front in P2, but I was just managing. I was short shifting big time the first sort of 8 laps to try and stretch the first stint out on the fuel, which I managed to do. So short shifting. So Sophie got away from me, and then after about 8 laps, I realised the fuel was good, and got on it, pulled her back in, and then yeah, I just stayed behind her for most of the first stint. I think Midnight was to catch him. I missed a few gears at one point, and he got right up behind me. But yeah, no, first stint went well, and then hit the wall on the pit entry, and caused loads of damage. Fantastic. So yeah, slow pit stop. Went on to the softs. I wanted to go medium, soft, which I think was a mistake. I should have gone medium, soft, medium, or medium, soft. But I should have done 2 stints on the medium, but I didn't. And then I was time managing for the next 2 stints, just trying to take it nice and easy around all the right hand corners, which is a lot of, and yeah, just trying to stretch those tyres out for 14 laps each, which I did do, but I wasn't fast, and yeah, the race got away from me, especially on the second pit stop, where I hit the wall really hard again. Came to a complete standstill, lost a lot of time. Joker got past me, and from there on in, it was just a case of managing those soft tyres again to the end. Finished P6, really happy with that. Abby kept it clean, and yeah, onwards. Yeah, it doesn't always go well. Life's a bitch, and then you marry one. All in all, really enjoyed this event. Lots of close racing, which I enjoyed. Yeah, thank you everyone. Congratulations everybody that finished on the podium. And yeah, onwards to the next one. Ciao, ciao, ciao.
Well, Brands Hatch, what can I say about that other than, wow, that was fun. I'm privileged enough to be able to drive around the Indy circuit for a job, but tonight with the F1 RST lot, this has actually been a highlight of the season and the year for me. Some of the utterly brilliant close racing between myself, Pedro, Kai, Sophia, Joker, max velocity, to name but a few. It's been brilliant. Sadly, the sprint didn't go exactly my way. I was trying to line up a pass on Joker for a couple of laps, and ran wide coming out of the final corner, and just looped myself. So yeah, that didn't work out in my favour. So that happens. But in the feature race itself, I went aggressive with the strategy. The pit lane is so short at Brands Hatch. It was just tempting. I mean, even after pitting, after a few laps, you're on the back of the people that you were just racing with fresher tyres. But with the way the physics are now, the tyre wear, the performance drops off so rapidly. Even like double life old medium tyres, if you kept them in shape, they eventually ended up faster than newer, worn softs, even if they were newer. So it was a lot of fun trying to gauge exactly what to do, but I did stick with the plan. I went for a multi-stop soft running tyre selection, and then went to mediums at the end. But that last couple of lap battle between myself, Kai and Sophia was amazing. Unlucky for Sophia to drop a couple of wheels onto the grass and then drop back, but well done for Kai. I mean, I know he had a horrible start with I think some damage as well, so he did tremendously to come back through the field, and it was an utter privilege to race alongside all of the drivers tonight, and I look forward to the next event as well. So well done everyone, and thank you very much for a highlight of the year in terms of GT7 for me.
Up next in the Nighthawk Racing F1 RST Championship for Season 3, St. Croix B.